Hello, Pennsylvania Conference for Women. Thank you so much for joining us today for our lunch break live. I'm Miranda Wicker, the social media director for the Conferences for Women, and I am here today with Cassandra Moore, an HR professional, an executive coach, and the founder and CEO of the More You Know group. She's going to answer some of our burning questions about job searching today. And Cassandra, we are so happy to have you with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Miranda, for having me.
So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, particularly in the Philadelphia area. Let us get to know you just a little bit.
Sure. So I am the CEO and founder of TMYK Group, as Miranda referenced. It stands for The More You Know. It is my professional coaching practice. I am an executive coach. I come with a background of over 20 years of HR experience. And like most who are finding themselves in our current times having to pivot in their careers, I too had to pivot my career and make a decision about what I wanted to do. And that was the catalyst for me starting my professional coaching business. So in addition to being CEO and founder, I am also a mom of a beautiful 22-year-old who recently graduated college. And I often refer to myself as the motivational leader of the human capital movement. And it is a movement that I am completely dedicated to because it is a movement designed to help individuals and leaders grow, pursue their passions, and find their purpose. And it was also the reason why, again, I leaned towards coaching when I left my career in HR. So my practice as an executive coach, I focus on all things leadership and career. And my coaching methodology is core energy coaching. And it is a methodology designed to start coaching the who and from within, right? So how we experience energy, how we use it to show up as leaders and within our careers.
All right, so tell us a little bit about ICF, because ICF is our sponsor of our Coaches Corner this year. So tell us a little bit about that organization.
Yes, ICF is the International Coaching Federation, and I am the proud president of the Philadelphia chapter. And we are hosting the Coaches Corner. For those of you who are attending, if you have not signed up for a coaching session, please visit the exhibit hall and look for the Coaches Corner and sign up for one-on-one opportunity to experience coaching with an ICF certified professional coach. This is an amazing opportunity for any of you who have never experienced coaching before to have an opportunity to sit with one of our very qualified and certified and credentialed coaches to kind of walk through what a coaching experience would look like. So I encourage you.
All right. So again, that is in the exhibit hall. Find the Coaches Corner and go ahead and sign up for one of those slots. I have a friend who attended one. She signed up for one at one of our conferences last year, and she said it was like the coach was speaking life into her, and telling her exactly what she needed to hear to pivot. And speaking of pivot is the word of 2020. We were just remarking before, I'm ready to get back to some unprecedented times are all around us. But speaking of pivoting, pivot is it's such a crucial word, a crucial thing that we're all experiencing. One of the things that you said on your website, that you wrote on your website, is that you're a believer in that every setback, every life-changing event is an opportunity. So right now, we know that there are a lot of women in particular who have experienced life-changing events throughout this pandemic. They've been laid off, they've left work to care for family, their industry has disappeared. So we've got a lot of women right now who are in that pivot. So for our job seekers, what advice do you have for standing out from the crowd?
Yeah, great question, Miranda. So this is a very popular question amongst the clients that I do coach. And not only are we up against this unprecedented time, but the marketplace is flooded with many people, many job seekers, some who have not had to look for a job in a very long time. So when you think about how you stand out in this sea of job seekers, let's not forget the real reasons why employers hire individuals. So I think the biggest thing for job seekers is needing to articulate your brand value statement, because this is unique to you. No one else is going to have this brand value statement. So that means, what is it that you're good at, and what can you deliver for the employer, and what's your why, right? So that bigger piece of purpose, right? When you stand out, when you are able to be clear about who you are, what you do, and also really being able to focus on your ability to deliver results. So can you go into an organization and make things better for them? When you're able to share concrete examples of your accomplishments, where you focus on the impact that your actions had in a previous experience, right, shows how you are able to focus on results, right? They always say past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. That's what employers are really looking for. The other thing to kind of think about is, being focused on what the employer is looking for, which is a little different than, being focused on your needs, so the WIFM, but really looking at, are you able to solve whatever the specific problems might be that organization is looking to have solved. So shifting your mindset from, the WIFM to focusing on the employer's needs. And the other thing, Miranda, that I think is very important is the ability to project a positive attitude. I know it's kind of hard given our times, but this is something that makes a job seeker stand out when they're able to exhibit that positive attitude, show that enthusiasm, especially when they first meet, the hiring leader or the person across the other end of the table. Being able to shift the mood of the hiring leader or the person that you're interviewing with, right, gives you a better chance of standing out and being considered. One of the things that was always important when I was in HR was the personal characteristics of the individual candidate usually wind up being those deciding factors. The other thing that can make you stand out is if you are being endorsed by someone, right? We all know the employee referral, but the all-powerful employee referral is even more critical when it's from someone that's respected in the organization. And when the individual is referring you, of course, you as the job seeker, you have to do your part, right? Get through the interview process, nail it. But a powerful referral definitely increases your chances as a way to stand out. Those are just a few. I mean, I could name more, but I think those can be found. You can find those helpful.
So you talked about energy, the energy that you bring into an interview, a hiring situation. So sometimes the job search can continue for a while. You've tried, you've been hunting for months, you've been trying, maybe you've been unemployed the entire time. So how can job seekers manage their energy and build momentum in their search, manage the disappointment of hearing no, and also just while you're also managing life?
Yeah, it is tough, but when I coach my clients, I speak to the core energy, right? That's coming from within, right? This is all about how you show up and the energy that you're giving off, but it's also a choice, because we can choose to look at our given situation and make a decision to either show up positively or react negatively. And I think maintaining optimism in the job search is critical. And the one thing that I always say about people is that we can control ourselves, right? So when you focus on the things that are controllable or the things that you can influence, those things really help you with maintaining optimism in the job search, and it goes a long way. So doing routine things like setting SMART goals about your career and your job search strategy, right? Knowing what those goals are. So if you've given yourself a goal for a year, break them down into smaller chunks, right? What do you want to accomplish in 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, so on and so forth. I think the other thing that helps with maintaining optimism and to avoid that feeling of isolation that we always, have been feeling with this pandemic is to keep networking. Keep networking virtually, over the phone. It doesn't matter. It just does wonders to stay connected to folks, because what you'll find is you'll find some solace in knowing that you're not alone. If you feel that, you're struggling to maintain optimism. And sometimes you may network with someone who's a part of your circle that might, give you that fuel that you need, that positive energy to, continue and stay the course. With everything else, I think this is the thing that falls to the bottom of the list for a lot of us, because we don't always think about ourselves. We have to practice self-care. Self-care goes a long way with helping to maintain that optimism in the job search. So when you think about caring for your physical and your mental self, there are a number of things that you can do, from physical activity, nature walks, right? Whatever floats your boat. One of the things that I like to do is I like to laugh, right? And laughing daily, a dose of humor is always good for the soul. Just little things that really help you stay the course in what could be a long journey. But again, optimism, flexibility, patience, those things go a long way.
So we've talked a little bit about if you're unemployed and you're in the job search, but if you're employed right now, is this a good time to be thinking about making a career change?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. And I say that my best response to a question like that, Miranda, is consider your options, because it's going to be different for different people. Sometimes a situation that, is posing itself on us right now with the pandemic is that it's taking us out of our comfort zone. And we've had to learn how to adjust and adapt with our families, with our jobs. But sometimes, going from that comfort zone to a stretch zone, which is where most of us are as we're having to deal with this, can be a good idea, and might also provide an opportunity for those who might want to think about a career change or a career transition. So when you think about that, if your industry has shut down, right? Many people have been laid off. You kind of have no choice but to pivot. If you're facing a reality that you're in a job that you don't really like, you may be forced to ask yourself, the tough question, is this really where I want to be? And am I ready to make a career change now, right? That requires a great deal of soul searching. But for those who are planning a self-initiated career change, there are many considerations to make before taking that plunge. But I think what should be top of list is how a pivot might affect your income. You'll definitely want to consider the amount of savings you have, the runway you'll need, given the chance that you might be faced, to a situation without income for some time. But it's definitely important to consider and ask yourself if changing a career at this time is going to put me in a panic zone, right? Really use your meter and your own risk tolerance as a gauge as to whether a career pivot makes sense right now for you or not.
That is fantastic advice. If you're prone to panic, don't do it. That's what I hear. If you're prone to panic, don't do it. So you've worked with people from all sorts of backgrounds, tech to retail, everything in between. So let's talk then about pivoting, because if you do decide to take that risk, that the risk is worth it to you, what's the best way to translate your skills from one industry to another and communicate those transferable skills to your potential employer?
Yes, great question. So the key about transferable skills is to think of your skill sets as tools that you have in your toolbox. And I know we hear this a lot, but do you really understand what's in your toolbox? And when you understand those skills, how can they transfer to a new industry or an industry that's currently hiring, right? So I've worked with clients who previously worked in retail and are looking now at, pivoting to opportunities in customer service where they can capitalize on using their relationship skills. So that's an example of utilizing a transferable skill. The other thing to keep in mind is that your resume is a powerful marketing tool, especially if it's structured in the right way. And that your resume has to be the tool that speaks to the potential employer, right? So in order to reinvent it for a new industry or whatever that new goal is for you, the first step is to really change your mindset about what your resume should be, right? So unhooking ourselves from the thought of an idea that a resume is a chronological map of your past work experience, consider looking at it as a means to showcasing your skills and show how you can bring value to the organization in the future. So when you're thinking about skills, look beyond the technical or those niche skills that are specific to like a small range of jobs, but look at other skills, those soft skills, things that you do or involvements that you have outside of work. Maybe if you're involved in something in the community or you sit on a board, showcase how those skills are relevant for the new industry that you're targeting. The other thing to look at is market research data. If you're targeting an industry, look at the data for that industry to understand what are those skills that are needed for the role that you're looking at. What are the challenges in that industry or that function that could determine for you where your current transferable skills might meet that industry or that employer's needs. And I always like to say, if you could get an opportunity to have the ear of a potential employer in a field of interest, what stories would you share or tell to provide convincing evidence that you can do said job? And when you think about those stories that you would tell, capture those accomplishments on your resume, and looking at the picture from both directions, right? So not only will you think about the accomplishments that show your strengths, but use the information from market research that you've acquired about the new role or the industry to then identify skills that you are going to need to have in order to meet those challenges.
All right. We have a lot of audience questions, and there are a lot of great questions, and I want to make sure we can get to as many of them as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and skip over to those. Now, this next question, I know what Ashton Applewhite would recommend. She's a conference for women speaker, but we're going to hear from you. So our user asks, do you have any advice on overcoming the age factor when you're young for your industry or role? Do you embrace it or do you hide it?
So the question is overcoming the age factor when you're young?
when you're young for your role? I think we could also answer this both ways, because I think the answer would be similar if people view you as too old for a role or position, or maybe to be in the workforce. And then if people view you as too young for that position as well, maybe they think, oh, you don't have enough life experience. So do you embrace your youth, or maybe try to hide it a little bit when you're in that
Yeah. So I
situation?
wouldn't, yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend hiding anything, right? Because who you are, what you stand for, how you want to be known is you being your authentic self. So if you're on the spectrum of the age where you're younger than or older than, to me, age is a number. And I think that you use it to your advantage. But think about what you bring to the table, regardless of your age, that would be a benefit to your employer.
All right. So can you give some points for advancing your career within your business? Maybe you're trying to stay in the same industry, but you want to advance within that current company that you're with. What things should you do to get yourself noticed?
So I always believe, depending on well, not depending on the organization, all organizations have a set of leadership competencies that they have, where employees, if they want to know how to advance to the next level, would look at those leadership competencies and make sure that they are living and breathing those competencies. So I think that one way to get noticed is for whatever job you're striving for, or that next level that you're striving for, ensure that you're living and breathing those competencies, and think about how you are showing up for the role you want versus the role you currently have. The other way, I believe, and that this is key, is to find a sponsor in your organization. Sponsorship, very different from mentorship, is having someone, senior level leader in an organization, who is your champion, who is speaking on your behalf about your accomplishments, your work product, in upper levels of the organization, and oftentimes in rooms that you're not in. And having a sponsor is very key in helping you gain access to different parts of the organization and or higher level positions. I know in my career, it has worked for me.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about that, because we had a very good question come in. And I think, again, this question goes both ways. So Jacqueline asks, I've heard a lot about sponsors lately. How do you foster a sponsorship relationship? So I think we can answer this from the perspective of, if you're the junior employee and you're looking to find a sponsor within your organization, but also if you're in the position to sponsor someone who is who's working their way up. So I think we can talk about that question in both directions.
No, we absolutely can. So let's start with the person who is looking to find a sponsor. One of the things that is a key skill set, we've talked about those tools in your toolbox, is relationship building. I am a firm believer that you can live and die with your relationships. Relationships have helped me in my corporate career land opportunities that I don't believe I would have landed had I not had those relationships. And it's about how you go about building those relationships. So in an organization, most leaders are open to employees reaching out to them who want to set up a coffee meeting or a lunch meeting, because you're interested in growing in the organization, and this leader is someone you might respect or admire, and you just want a moment of their time. You'd be surprised how many of them will take you up on your offer. I've not had an executive ever turn me down for an offer of a coffee meet, and using that meeting to really help that leader get to know you. And it could either turn into a mentoring relationship, or it can turn into a sponsoring relationship. But the key for whichever relationship it turns into is that you have to ask. Ask and ye shall receive. I don't think we get anything. We don't get things in life if we don't ask for them. Mm-hmm. And the flip side of that is being a leader who promotes internal growth and development. It's one of the things that I did as a leader. I sought out young up and coming leaders to take them under my wing, to provide an opportunity to either be a mentor or a sponsor for those individuals. And I think that you get a lot out of that relationship. While that person is learning from you, you're also learning a lot about yourself as a leader when you can take someone under your wing. You'd be surprised with the things that you learn about yourself.
So we're talking a little bit about networking and sponsorships, and I consider myself a people collector. You talked about how opportunities have come to you based on fostering relationships with people. Right. So we have a great question here. How do you use your personal network to create genuine connections and get that powerful referral? I think we don't want to look at our friends and say, hey, can you, we don't want our friends to think that we're using them for those referrals, but that's a valid way to get your foot in the door at an organization, right?
Yeah, referrals are personal referrals, professional referrals, whatever you want to call them. Referrals are huge. I know when I was in HR, we would always look at the bucket of candidates who were coming in as employee referrals, because it was something that our company and all the companies I worked at truly valued. If you're in a situation where you have a network, and within that network, you want to tap into that network and have someone in your network help you, it's all a matter of the relationship that you've cultivated and that you've built with that person. I don't think anyone is going to believe that you are using them because you would like to tap into their abilities to help you get into a company that they possibly work for. The key with relationships, right, is that you have to constantly cultivate and mine those relationships. If you're only tapping in for a one and done, then that's going to be perceived as, oh, you're only reaching out if you need me for something. So there's a way, a strategic way to utilize your network to your benefit.
All right, let's change gears just a little bit and talk about money, because that is a question on everybody's mind all the time. So do you have any advice on how to ask for a raise and get the most out of your check-in with your boss?
So this is a good one. I worked with candidates who asked for this to be topics covered during a session. So here's what I would say about that. If you are in a role and you've been in that role for a while, and you've demonstrated the ability to show up every time, and you've over-indexed on your performance factors or your performance goals, and you want to have that conversation with your boss, you should. But you should also go into that conversation with the mindset of showing the why. So yes, I want to raise, but here's why. And if you focus the conversation on the performance and the results that were delivered for the company's benefit, the likelihood of that conversation going positively is greater. But if you go into the conversation focusing on, well, I need a raise, and it's time, I've been doing this for 3 years, but not really backing that up with quantifiable metrics around what you've delivered, that conversation is going to go a little differently.
So let's take the flip side of that just a little bit. And this one, I think, this question is a good one, because how do you negotiate a higher salary within your company if you don't feel the financial compensation that you're being offered matches the role when you receive a promotion?
So
you've been promoted and they've offered you this new compensation package, but maybe you've done your homework and maybe you know what other people in your industry in that position are
right,
making, and what
right,
you're being offered is not equitable, not the
right.
same.
So again, I'm a firm believer of communicating strategically and about what your wants are. So a conversation like that can be had with the leader who presented you with the promotion, but you could also have that conversation with your HR professional. And again, you having your facts lined up and in a row is going to become helpful, because where you're getting your information from about others who are in a similar role and what their salaries are, right? That's going to come into play. But again, if you focus it on the reasons around the why, right? So I've been given this promotion. This wasn't the money that I was looking for. It's almost like having the conversation to see if there is an opportunity to negotiate that. But again, it's a delicate conversation, one that can be had. But you want to be really strategic about what you're hoping the outcome to be. So if you're thinking that you got 50K and you really wanted 70K, be prepared to have a discussion around what you want and the why that goes with that.
I think that why is incredibly
Very important.
important. So just a couple more questions and then we're going to wrap up because we're going a little bit over time here, but thank you to everybody who's sticking with us. These are such great questions. So this user asks, I was recommended to take on a highly visible leadership role outside of my specialty that will last about 6 months and expand my skills greatly. So how can I maximize that time?
Oh, those are great opportunities, because not everyone gets an opportunity to what I call take a lateral move and sidestep and learn something new. But you should go into it with a lot of enthusiasm and looking at it as just what it is, an opportunity for you to expand your skills. So in order to maximize that opportunity, I would make sure that I am making the right relationships with the key players, the senior leaders, and in a 6-month time frame. That's not a lot of time, but it is time to make a difference. So what are those goals that you have to tackle low-hanging fruit that will make you be seen as a standout leader? I would focus on those things and the relationships. And don't lose sight of the fact that this is an opportunity for you to grow. So I'd be a sponge as well and learning all that I can in this opportunity.
All right, one final question, and then we are going to wrap up. A lot of women in our audience, they lead or manage their teams, but they have their sights set on positions of greater leadership or maybe even the C-suite. So how can they start taking steps toward those goals?
Yeah, I think it goes back to one of the points I made earlier about understanding what those competencies are, those leadership competencies are at the C-suite level. And I think that for those who are aspiring to, the VP ranks and above in their organization, this is where the sponsor, having a sponsor comes in, because that person who's already in the C-suite understands the political landscape, understands how to navigate and what the rules of engagement are, or what are those unwritten rules and the things that you need to know in order to be a successful leader. I think that that's sort of kind of the fast track to your sight and setting your sights on C-suite, and more importantly, the folks in organizations who are being looked at for those types of roles are usually those who are on a high potential list or a fast track list. We're looking at you to groom you. And if you're not in any one of those situations, building relationships with the right leaders to, kind of get your board of directors in order, so to speak. Like, these are the people that are looking out and helping you navigate and manage your career. Building relationships to get that in place will definitely help with this.
All right. So thank you again so much, Cassandra, for being with us. Anyone who's still watching, Pennsylvania Conference for Women, thank you for being here and giving us your lunch break today. Yes. We hope that you will click around in the exhibit hall. Please take advantage of the Coaches Corner sessions that are still available and sign up for one of those. If you have any questions, you want someone to give you some personal one-on-one executive coaching, or career coaching rather. And then tomorrow, we didn't touch on this today, but this is a super important skill. Tomorrow, Amanda Healy is going to be with us for a lunch break live, and we're going to cover LinkedIn, how to build your LinkedIn profile to use that and maximize it to your advantage. So please come back, same time, same place, and then we will see you again soon. All right. Thanks guys.
Everyone. Nice to meet you guys.